Well, hi, this is Jim Peacock, and we're here today with another Peak Careers interview about how to create the conversation using card sorts. I'm a huge fan of card sorts and have been for a long time. And today have my good buddy, Lesah Beckhusen, who is the president of SkillScan. We shared an exhibit booth at National Career Development last year, and it was great. But we're going to explore how Lesah uses SkillScan card sorts when working with clients, and what are some tips to get people to really think about that next career move, to get those people really having that career conversation that we need to help our clients. So Lesah is a career consultant, the president of SkillScan, and developed these online assessments, which are awesome. She's worked in career development for a number of years at Berkeley and community colleges. I didn't even know that. Outplacement, and has a master's degree in counseling from San Diego State University. So thank you very much for coming today. So we got both sides of the country taken care of here, me from Maine and you out in California. Mm-hmm. So why don't you talk a little bit about how you use SkillScan card sorts when you're working with clients?
Well, first, I love card sorts. Used them way back when in the community colleges, and just loved using them, and continued on after working in an adult career center with the existing models that were out there. And my partner and I, a woman and I, worked together. We just said, oh my goodness, these card sorts are great, but it'd be nice if we could have a card sort that was color coded so individuals could see their competencies like management leadership or analytical skills and kind of group them into colors. And then you could relate it to Holland themes and Myers-Briggs and so on. So that was like the big idea way back when. But having those early conversations, the whole card sort idea is that there's one stimulus at a time that the client is reacting to. So whether it's proficiency or enjoyment, whatever, you can approach it from different ways, but when you add the combination of proficiency plus enjoyment, you now have that level of motivation. And that's when their eyes literally light up and they understand what I need, what I want, or what's not working for me. So again, laying it out, seeing it, and then conversing, sometimes during the card sort, because you don't get to do that if you're doing an online version. But I've had clients cry. I've had clients smile and just light up the room. And I've had clients into analysis paralysis because they can't make a decision. Mm-hmm. And, I've had many clients who have taken it a second time because, again, it's like the results are just so surprising to them. It validated.
And I remember doing it with this one guy, and he just looked at it and was like, that's me. He just looked at the table and go, that's me. Who wouldn't love to do this? It's because we're living this high technology world where it's like, input the data and it will spit out the job for me. And what I think people are craving in some ways is sort of kinesthetic stuff that goes on. And like you said, while you're doing the cards, you can ask questions and they can respond. And you want to show them your cards real quickly?
I don't have them right here.
Yeah, well, you do.
Oh, well, yeah, we'll look at, I have them on the slide here. That's just a little sampling though. So SkillScan is a little bit different from some of the others out there. And I mentioned the color coding. So there's 6 categories of colors or competencies, and there's a skill on each one with a brief definition. So one of the things is in this case, there's 54 skills, and then they break into little subsets of skills. So again, you might have, instead of just creative skills, I have a skill set of, let's just say, invention. So I like to conceptualize and synthesize and design. And then you can see how all the skill sets fall on the wheel. And if you go to the next slide, Jim, on this one you see all 54 skills in the 18 skill sets and by color within the category. So it's almost like this. I've used this as like a pre-test and have people say, which ones describe you the best.
Yeah.
Just like Holland, in a way, you've taken a complex world and broken it down into 6 categories that make it reasonable. But so this is at a high level for folks, so it helps people to orient them to understand, this framework and how the world of work is broken down into these different skills. But the card sort itself, I think, as Jim was saying, you're using it eye, hand, motor, visual. If you're talking about it, there's an auditory component. So it really brings into all of those senses, and that's what makes the results sticky. And sticky is good with all the data out there, colors, hand, eye movement, all of that makes this information stick.
Yeah, when I do my workshops, I always call it the magic of card sorts, because I really, there's something magical that happens when people are doing this, where they're taking each of those 54 cards or whatever, there's all kinds of card sorts. There's values card sorts and I have all kinds here, but whatever one you're using, they're thinking about that one skill in their brain in the context of the world of work, and how does it fit? And they're thinking about, how important is it? How much do I like it? Or however you're asking them to think. And there's something that happens that's at a deeper level than when if they just go, I really like building kitchen cabinets, or I really don't like building kitchen cabinets. There's something magical about it.
Well, I think what's happening, it's using the process, why these card sorts are considered intuitive based, because it's associative. So for each skill word, there is a memory. It's a holistic memory of all the times you've used that skill. So it's like, oh, conceptualize. You don't even ever think of that word. And then you go, what does it mean? Well, I conceptualized, this workbook I did for my class. I conceptualized my trip I went to England. I conceptualized a playground for my kids with leftover boxes. So they start to then make all these associations, and bingo, that's where I tend to go with the wording, is really getting examples from individuals, and I'm watching them as they're talking about things, and I'm noting, like 5-star, this one really got a lot of energy going for it. Let's note that this one is kind of more in the area. So there's a gradient of where we're looking for that sweet spot of, I really love using these skills, and here's how, let me talk about it. So that's where that motivation is literally showing.
And that's where that conversation happens. And like you said, when that conversation happens and you hear that passion, you can hear it in their voice, you can see it, you see it in their body. And it doesn't mean that conceptualize even means the same thing to you as it does to me. It doesn't even matter. However they process it, and whatever it means to them is all you really care about,
Mm-hmm.
But it's
absolutely,
and it's, for me, it's really listening to their words and their phrases, what phrase they use, how they describe it. And I do the same thing with you. I use hearts on mine when they're saying stuff. And they say something, I put a big heart on it, because you can tell.
Because one of the things I do before we do a card sort, I think you asked me this, do I use it all the time? And it's like, well, no, but I ask them, what are your strengths? What are your skills? What do you like to do? What do you think you're good at? I have 20 different ways to ask that question. And I can tell you, most people will list maybe 5 words, and they may be, I'm detailed and thorough. They're a mix. So that'll give you some clues also how well they really know themselves. And I've even pulled out a deck and said, okay, well, this deck has X number of skills in it with these different areas. And people usually kind of like, oh, there might be more skills that I have, right? So then that entices them to want to understand more. And then if I ask them questions about things they have done that they've enjoyed doing, and then I can say, oh, you mentioned that you built this grandfather clock for your family, and it took this and this, and you had to do research and design and so on, but they never used any of those skill words in talking about what they thought their strengths were. So it's that interplay of words with examples.
Right. So when we all have most of us have this broad spectrum of different clients and stuff. Are there some clients that you kind of go, they don't really need it, and then there are other clients you kind of go, man, they really should do this? I mean, are there some? Can you talk about a client that maybe doesn't need to do a skills card sort?
Like I said, well, okay, so there's just sort of a gradient of how well people know themselves. And a lot of people think they know themselves, that they have a lot of work experience. But they know what they know. They don't know what they don't know. So how can they know? Like, I had a young woman who said, she said, well, I know all my friends are going into consulting and investment banking, and I don't want to do that. Most of these jobs don't really use my creative side. Well, what does that mean? Right? So creative came up really super high for her. Her examples of it back into her college years were making scrapbooks for each year of college. She decorated for sorority events. All of that led to seeing that she's a much more creative person and she didn't have language for it, right? So she directly went out that spring. She had one more semester. She and her group did a business competition. They made a winery display for like a family-friendly winery and they won it. Their group won the display and their proposal. So she took the idea, it's incubating, she had an opportunity, but if I had trusted her from just what she'd said from her work experiences, we wouldn't have had that piece to build upon.
No, that's a great point. When I think about, I was doing some outplacement with a company down in Portland, and there were some pretty high level salespeople who had been let off, and I was working with them. And when I asked them about their skills, this guy really had a pretty good grasp of what he did and how he did it, and just with a few good questions, I felt like he really had a good grasp on it. So I mean, I'm not going to put somebody like that through, paying for an hour session, but I'm kind of like you. I think most people get something out of these cards. It
validates, and at different choice points over time, he's been in a job, he's happy with it, he wants to do the same thing. But for almost everybody, that next job holds the potential for using some skills more than others. Because most people don't want to repeat the same type of work, just in a different environment. They want to grow, or they want to get something from that. So that's what I find too. I think it's very helpful to be really grounded where you're solid. But what is this, like you said, how do you get people to move on a career choice? Well, it's always about what's in it for me, right? So if I see, I have these high potential skills, I'm only moderate proficient in them, but I really enjoy using them. Then there's that inner drive that goes, they're scanning SkillScan, right? They're scanning jobs for an opportunity to develop the skills that they want to develop and use more. The trade-off is they're going to market also their skills that they're good at and solid at, right?
Yeah.
But so it's a little bit of an exchange.
So when you get the clients to lay out these cards, what are some tips or tricks that you use to really get them to start talking about these groups or cards or skills? What are some things?
Well, with SkillScan, you're actually laying them all out, but then you have to pick your top number one category, color, second, third, and fourth. So now you're having a summary, and then they can rank order those within, I want management, blue cards, I can rank order those skills. So then we're looking at, and then I have them prioritize them. So is management leadership first, is communication second, third, fourth. Now we have basically criteria and a lens for evaluating different jobs or evaluating their past job. So a lot of people come to coaching because, I'm unhappy or I'm dissatisfied. So that helps us to look, was it a functional issue, or maybe the job is a good fit, it was environment or interest or something else. But for almost everybody, somebody might say, well, I like the creative as well as I like the analytical. So those are even to me. So over time as a coach, you start seeing themes. So I call people that like analytical and creative skills and they want to use them 50, 60% of the time, those are whole brain people. So that's the kind of thing from working with card sorts and, you know, literally thousands of clients over the years. I see these themes that I can help. Oh, so give me some example of how you use these together.
Right. And see, that's what I love is those, you know, the question of give me some examples, you know, and again, they've looked at each of these cards and processed it at a different level. Right. And then they put these together. But when you say, give me an example or tell me a time that you used this, that's really where these things come to life. And then they can sometimes realize that it's not the company. They like the job, but they want more of a certain kind of function, right? Or a certain kind of group of skills. And because some people leave and they think they want to leave the entire job. And a lot of times the job or the company is very good. They just need to adjust where they're spending their time. But it comes out of those stories, you know, when you say, give me an example.
Absolutely. And let's just say I had a client who was an accountant at a large utility, and, you know, she had a bachelor's degree and so forth. She was miserable, but she didn't know why. Well, it was very clear when she sorted the cards. She had a lot of the relationship counsel teach, wanting to work with people, so on. So that was a real eye-opener. Well, her firm was great. They allowed her to work half-time over in the human resources and get into employee relations and learn about that. So she did that for a few months. And she went, I don't want to work in this role or that environment. And she went back to school to get a counseling degree. But again, you can start growing your skills where you are. And most employers want you to be happy and want you to use your talent. So they usually will negotiate with you.
Yeah, I think that's great. So, so this is all about getting that conversation going. So any final thoughts on using card sorts to help get that conversation with coaches and their clients going?
Well, I think it's one of those things that it might be sort of challenging to start with them. But there's some even like little simple things you can do if you have a deck of cards. You don't even have to do a whole full sort. I had a young man one time, and the first 40 minutes of the session, his parents had made him come to career counseling. He said he didn't have any skills, and he had no interests, and there's nothing he wanted to do. So went round and round on that. And I said, well, humor me. You probably right, but here's a deck of cards. Go through them and see if there's anything you can give yourself any credit for either doing or you like doing. Well, he pulled out 5 cards. And guess what they were? They were in the creative area, like writing and, you know, things that I could just see his parents steering him to do something practical, make some money. And so it was kind of like, well, you do have a few skills. And then we were able to, use that as an opportunity to point out, there was a really great book at the time on how to use, you know, careers for writers. It had all kinds of, just all the different ways writing can play into a career. And I pointed that out to him and said, you know, this is really, you know, doable, possible. So I never saw him again, but okay. But, you know, it's kind of like, that was just a simple thing. And you can do that with a deck of cards. You can do that 5 minutes or 10 minutes, right? Yeah. So that gets the conversation going, right? Yeah. That's one way. So, and the other way to get any kind of conversation going is to ask them, what did they think, have they ever done this sort of thing before? When they're going through the sort, make notes of their behavior. I notice you really got stuck over here, or I notice you have a large pile of skills that you say you have no skill in. Believe me, I work with a lot of folks that were college graduates, and they had a larger pile of can't do versus can do, or like to, was proficient at. So then I would challenge them on it. I said, well, I'm not very good at it. Can you do it? You had to write papers to get through college, right? You can write.
Yeah.
Okay. So encourage them to take more a proficiency, but really look for, what do you really like to do? What is really at the heart of hearts, nobody's telling you what to do. What do they like? What's fun? What's enjoyable? Where's their sweet spot?
Because, you know, what too many people think, I got to find my passion to go find the job. But when you find the skills that you like to use, you grow them. They blossom. And it's like you get more. You know, you got to ask your boss, give me more of that. Or you find a job that allows you to do more, right? I mean, but it's really all about thinking about what is the value that I add to the world of work. I mean, everybody's unique. Everybody has got some things that they're better at and they like more than others and are interested in. And that's really what we're trying to do when I'm helping somebody with those cards. And, you know, especially those people that kind of go, I'm not really good at anything, or they only say, you know, I show up to work on time, you know, I can communicate. But we're really trying to get them to talk about what is it that they like to do. And like you, I love that example of even coming up with 5 cards that you don't have to use the whole deck. You don't have to do the whole process. You can just help them kind of go, wait a minute, I do have some skills here. And how can I now use those? Or how have I used them?
In the ideal world, if they could use them, how would they use them? Those are other questions. Or, you know, when you use, you know, when's the first memory you have of using this skill? So, you know, when I've done these card sorts, I think it was the card sort that helped me to realize I had these creative skills and I like writing, but then it's like, well, I never thought I liked writing, but I only like certain kinds of writing. I don't like writing research papers, but I like writing, you know, I like writing instructional kinds of things or narrative stories about people. So that's the other sort of next layer of question is, you know, we talked about examples. Is there a time when you used, because you used a skill when you really liked it and at the same time you really didn't? Because I worked with a lot of attorneys who overused certain skills. So that's the other thing. You see all those analytical skills, hate those, don't like those, burn out. And then they're usually craving, whether it's some communication or some other use of skills because they have not been used. So you start seeing those kinds of gravitational things of these needs coming up and these wants. And once they see that, they can make some pretty hard decisions because people were very invested in a career from 3 years of college and 2 to 5 years of work experience and the money. You've got to have a really good reason. So there's other things you want to do and you want to go beyond the card sorts with those folks.
Right.
I really ground them. So hopefully I mean, I don't have anything to say in a word or two. The reason I think we should use them is they're fun and they're the most insightful thing you can ever do with a client. And everybody says it, they all love them. Yeah. I've never heard a person say that wasn't worth it. Everybody at the end of the day goes, if it wasn't useful, it was at least fun.
Right. Well, listen, thank you so much, Lisa. This is great. Yeah. And you know, I'm another huge card sort fan, and we've known each other for a while now. But so I'm Jim Peacock with Peak Careers Consulting. I started my business really teaching the facilitating career development class and have been doing that for years. I have online discussion-based seminars, so they're a little different. They're not an independent study. They're with other career practitioners. They're 5 weeks long and they're on a variety of different topics. I also love doing face-to-face workshops for different career development associations or groups of people. And I always have a handful of career coaching clients. If you are a career practitioner or a person who works and delivers career services, you can sign up for my top 10 tips of working with an undecided person and get on my newsletter list. I send out weekly career content. You can do that on my website. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, and Instagram, but I'm a big LinkedIn fan. So I spend a little more time on LinkedIn, but I'm pretty much on all those. So anyways, Lisa, thank you so much. It's great to see you. I love Zooming with you, but this was a special day really to talk about card sorts. So thank you.
You're sure welcome.